The essentials, part 9 in essential oils, history and use. So first of all, just a reminder that the information here is educational in nature, and that it's just another tool that you can put into your tool belt for keeping well and or getting well if necessary. It's not medical advice. It shouldn't be construed that way. And that anything you're ever shown anywhere, you should always do your own due diligence and not just take one individual's word for it. And while attempts are made to be complete, it's not exhaustively comprehensive coverage of the subject. So just keep that in mind too. So tonight we're going to be looking at frankincense. One of the frankincense species is Boswellia farina, and it's often referred to as the king of oils, frankincense. It has a long history of use and safety, thousands of years, all through biblical history, which is the history of the world. And specifically noted 17 times in scripture by name, but it's also commonly included in blends of incense, about 113 times, likely used in those blends of incense, just referred to generically as incense. It's in one of the special holy incenses that was made for the tabernacle and other things as well. So you can see that it's a kind of a woody shrub with pinnate leaves. Pinnate just means that they are additional leaves sticking out of an individual stem. So these happen to be oppositely pinnate as opposed to alternate on this stem. You can see it has a little white pale flower there. And when cut or wounded, it exudes an oleogum resin, and that's what's collected from the tree. And they do horizontal incisions from which it weeps, and then it's collected, kind of like pine pitch from a pine tree. It's prized for its health benefits. There's a wide range of health benefits that are attributed to frankincense, all the way from anxiety to immunity benefits. And we'll look at some of those different benefits as we go through our presentation. So that there are actually 3 species of Boswellia, which is the genus name for frankincense. There's Boswellia farina, Boswellia carteri, and Boswellia sacra. And they have slightly different morphologies that look different. You can see the leaves there. It looks very arid, dry environments. It's actually a native of the Arabian Peninsula. So it's very accustomed to arid, dry climates. The resins are similar in nature, but look slightly different. You can see a man on the lower right there doing a wounding cut on a frankincense shrub, and then that will come back and attended to. It isn't grown in in a cultivated way, more of a wild harvest kind of a scenario. In that, when things are wild harvested, they tend to be more robust. Oftentimes when plants are intended to be cultivated, not always, but oftentimes, that intensive agriculture tends to lower their robustness and their ability to be healthfully beneficial to humans. It's not always true, but many times it does work out that way. So the resins have a slightly different appearance depending on which species of tree they come from. They have similar properties. The chemical constituents are similar, but there are some slight differences as well. So the different species have slightly different concentrations of the compounds, and they have a little bit different effects. Some are better than none. So if you can only get one type of frankincense, go ahead and get it. So frankincense is good. The one that I happen to have is the farina. So it has elevated terpene levels. That's the one on the very bottom of our list here. The Boswellia carteri has a wide variety of monoterpenes and sesquiterpenes. Sesqui means 7. And incensyl acetate. The Boswellia sacra and carteri have high pinene content, and those are great for benefits of forest bathing. So we've talked about that in the past in different presentations. Forest bathing is just essentially being outside in an environment where you have the volatile oils that are aromatically being released into the air. A hot summer day, you're going to have more of those than in a cooler winter day, but they're still present, gives the freshness to it, but they have immune boosting qualities that can last up to 30 days. And that can even be beneficial using just essential oils, particularly fir and other tree, cedars oil, and evidently frankincense also falls in that category as being a benefit from the forest bathing perspective. So it can help boost immunity for up to 30 days and can be used in an urban setting where those trees aren't actually even present, which is kind of a good thing to know about. So the part that's used is the resin, and you can see the hand here, the gentleman holding the resin. So this tree has been scarred and the resin oozes out, and then it is collected, and then that is what it's steams distilled from. The oil, the essential oil, is steam distilled from the extraction from those resins. The main compounds are A-philandronese or alpha-thugine, alpha-pinene, and limonene or limonene. And that is a citrusy terpentine or terpene that is also in frankincense. So the limonene is in citrus fruits as well. So it may have a bit of a citrus scent, kind of along with the smell of the frankincense. So we talked about some different classes. These are just some other compounds within those classes, the monoterpenes, et cetera, that we spoke of a moment ago. So some key properties: it has immunostimulant properties, has anti-cancer properties, anti-inflammatory properties, anti-depressant properties, and just general restorative properties. We know this from the biblical record of gold, frankincense, and myrrh being brought as gifts by the Magi to the baby Jesus. And the gold was a monetary benefit. The frankincense was as good as gold, along with the myrrh. Their chemical compounds were both healing and illness preventatives. So they had value as much as gold in that, right? So they were gifts definitely fit for a king. You can see the different molecular makeup of the three compounds here. So the frankincense blends well with myrrh. So myrrh and frankincense often go hand in hand. It's another type of resin. We'll talk about that at a different time. Sandalwood and lavender. So those are going to be essential oils as well. So the myrrh in particular is another steam distilled oil from the resins. And it can be used neat. So neat use is just using the oil straight on the skin. It's not a hot oil like oil of oregano or other types of oils like that. Peppermint could be hot too. So no dilution is necessary. If you were diluting an oil, you could dilute it to extend it a little bit, but it's not necessary. It is one of the more expensive oils when you're looking at essential oil to purchase. So using frankincense, it's beneficial for use in tumors and cancers. You can use it internally. You can use it with a gel capsule, put several drops in there, use it with grapefruit oil or lavender oil, and you can take it in a capsule. Topically, you can massage it as its own oil, or you can blend it with other oils that were mentioned earlier, like the myrrh and the lavender, and massage it over the area of concern. So it's like a tumor or something like that that's near the surface. So being an oil, it's going to pass through lipid membranes easier than other types of molecules. So that way it can find its way through the various tissues of the body. So trauma and seizures, if someone has just significant trauma or seizures that are typically neurologically induced, you can take it internally, just drop it sublingually. So that's underneath the tongue. So the picture over here on the right is a picture of a tongue. The left side of that tongue just has some of the muscles exposed in the bottom, but you would just drop it underneath the tongue there. Topically, for seizures and trauma, you could use it right along the hairline of the individual who is suffering from those issues. Alzheimer's, dementia, and brain injury can be helpful to be used internally in a capsule form. So put several drops in a capsule, and you can just swallow it like you do any other capsule. Topically, under the nose or the back of the neck. So the nose is going to be very aromatic as well as topical. The back of the neck is going to be close to the neurological central nervous system and easily affect that area. So aromatically, just use a diffuser to diffuse that into the room where you may be. So depression can be helpful to diffuse into the room to help individuals suffering from depression. It can also be used sublingually, a drop. It helps to ease the symptoms of depression, and that can be a good thing to know. Wound healing and wrinkles, so you can use it topically to wounds or wrinkles, and it can help to accelerate the wound healing, keep it antiseptic, as well as to helping reduce wrinkles. It just helps the regeneration of skin tissue. Scars and stretch marks, use it topically mixed with myrrh, so it can help reduce scarring and stretch marks from pregnancy, for example, or from excess weight that has been lost. Just helps to retighten that skin and bring it back into its normal states. Sciatica and back pain, so it has some analgesic effects. You can use it topically over the affected area. Internally, you can use it as an anti-inflammatory in a capsule form. So it's going to help in the other areas as well, just by virtue of it being used that way. You can dilute it to extend the oil and extend the area of coverage of that oil with like fractionated coconut oil or almond oil. There's avocado oil. There's other types of oils you can use for the what do you call it? The diluting oils, the carrier oils. There we go. So for immune support and cellular health, you can use it internally in the capsule again, and you can also use it on the soles of the feet. And that's actually a good thing to remember, is using it on the soles of the feet. We know that there are the dermatomes on the soles of the feet that have various effects on the body, and the nerves reach down there, and the circulatory system comes from the feet as well, circulates through. But you may be able to actually help someone just with a foot massage that you wouldn't be able to contact them or touch them in any other way, potentially, and that could be a way that you could help them out immensely. So God's given us multiple points of contact that can be beneficial for each other. Warts, so you can use it topically with diluted oil of oregano. So oil of oregano will work on its own for many people, but using it in conjunction with frankincense may have a synergistic effect. Allergies, coughs, congestion. So again, that helps to break up the mucus. You can inhale it from the cupped hands or diffused. So just put a couple drops right in your hand and cup it, or just rub it together and cup it over your nose, and take several deep breaths of it, just like you would with eucalyptus. Topically, you can combine it with rosemary and peppermint, and that can be a helpful cough remedy or congestion breaking up or various allergies. And it can also be helpful for regaining focus. So you can use it under the nose or the back of the neck, very similar to what you would use for trauma. Aromatic can ease tension just by diffusing that into the area where you are. Lavender is also well known for that as well. So joint pain and inflammation. So again, it has anti-inflammatory compounds or components to it. Topically, you can massage it into the area, helps improve circulation. Also improve circulation for those with asthma or GI issues. And arthritis is just joint pain or inflammation. Arthro is joint. So the arthropods are all the insects. Arthro is joint, poda is foot. So they're jointed feet. So that's kind of where the word comes from. And itis is always inflammation. So you can see that there are different ways to diffuse. We have the steam or heat diffusing, where it sends up a little cloud. But these are kind of a diffusing rod, where it has oil in the lower container, and then the oil soaks up this rod and then diffuses as the air passes over it. So it's a more passive diffusing mechanism that wouldn't require power to enable that to diffuse. So that's something to think about when thinking about how you might diffuse things without any electrical power. Some cautions: frankincense does have blood thinning properties. So when taking it internally, you're already on a blood thinner, you might want to consult with a physician who has experience with the synergistic effects. You may need less of your blood thinner. So you just want to keep that in mind. So if you have issues with clotting, that you're already taking medication for thinning, just want to be aware of that, especially when taking it internally. So some research around frankincense. There's actually quite a bit of research around it, just several here as examples. The effect of frankincense in the treatment of moderate plaque-induced gingivitis, a double-blind randomized clinical trial. So they use this in treating gingivitis, which is itis, again, inflammation of the gingiva, which are the gum tissues right along the tooth line. And what they noticed was it improved the pocket depth. So they were just very narrow pockets, and reduced inflammation significantly for those people who used the frankincense. The next one is Boswellia sacra. Essential oil produces tumor cell-specific apoptosis and suppresses tumor aggressiveness in cultured human breast cancer cells. So when it says that cultured, this is going to be in vitro, which means in a petri dish, as opposed to in vivo, which is in the living organism. But it does have some positive things that it's suggesting. It induces breast cancer cell apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. So cancer has that signature quality of not knowing when to die. All our tissues have a lifespan. Our eye tissue is some of the shortest of the body. Skin is kind of moderate to rapid. And the slowest are our bones. It takes about 10 years to have a complete regeneration of bone tissue. It doesn't mean that it'll completely remodel an area that has had trauma. That'll always kind of be scarred or have additional calcification there to help strengthen it. And it also functions to suppress or repress the cell cycle, and it's a regulatory mechanism for cell division in the cancer cells, the tumor cell specific cells. So that's interesting, how it can be selective to abnormal cellular tissue, but not disrupt the activities of normal tissue. And it's a wonderful characteristic or quality that God has put into the oils, as well as our body's recognition of them. Then we have antibacterial activity of Boswellia carteri. So we have two different species here that are talked about: Boswellia carteri, Boswellia sacra. An aqueous extract, so that basically just means that they put it into water. So steam distilled is an aqueous extract. And its effect on phagocytosis in vitro. So again, this was a test tube study. Phagocytosis is the macrophages, which are the big eaters. Phagio is eating, cytosis of cells, so cellular eating. And basically, phagocytosis is what macrophages do when they're cleaning up the garbage of the body. So when there's been tissue damage, the macrophages are going to come and phagocytize the damaged tissues and eat it up. And essentially, those things get digested or recycled. So positive improvements in that process of phagocytosis.
To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.